All right, no filter MMA family. This is your boy BJ, of course, back with the UFC 253 post fight, and I am joined by my very dear friend, Mr. John Realjo, who is the founder of Bloody Canvas MMA. What's up, man?
Not much. What's up with you, BJ? Great night of fights. Last night, UFC 253 went down. And I am excited to discuss this with you.
Man, so John, what are your initial thoughts after the card?
Listen. I mean, we got to just address it, right? So it's 1 o'clock. My beloved Patriots are playing right now. I just got out of the gym. You can't really tell because it's like a black athletic shirt, but I'm soaked right now. My bathing suit area is completely soaked. I got after it at the gym, but there was stink. But there's no way that I was missing this conversation with you because BJ, I want to make it clear. I pick fights wrong. You pick fights wrong. We all pick fights wrong. No one bats 1,000. And if you're picking like 66% on fights, you're doing pretty damn good, right? Like anything above 60% is really good, whatever. But BJ, you, Anthony, Jose, all y'all made this a little bit different because for so long, I kept hearing about Paulo Costa's pressure and how Paulo Costa was going to go in there and just dominate Israel Adesanya to the body. And you made it, you guys, and I'm going to say you, but like I'm referring to them as well, but they're not here right now. But you made it into way more than just like, yeah, I got this fight wrong. Because for months, I was listening to you guys talk about how basically Israel Adesanya just like couldn't win, how he just like couldn't win this fight. And I swear I thought I was taking crazy pills when I was listening to you guys talk about Paulo Costa when we were making our picks video Friday night, because like you guys are saying how Paulo Costa looked so good in his time in the UFC, which I get, but he had beaten the corpse of Johnny Hendricks. He had beaten Uriah Hall that had a lot of success early on in that fight. And then he beat Yoel Romero in just like a crazy firefight that some people even gave to Romero. I gave it to Costa, but like, it was just like a crazy, like whatever fight. And just when it came to Adesanya, it was like, oh, well, Robert Whittaker hadn't gotten back to where he was yet. Oh,
which is true.
Maybe.
Shout out to the comment section, by the way.
And a lot of those guys are smart people. And, like what Izzy did to, Kelvin Gastelum was looked at like a negative, as if like he's not allowed to have a tough fight. And what Izzy did to Derek Brunson, just like ho, ho, hum, you know what I mean? Like everything, even beating Vettori early on in his career, who like is a ranked fighter now. Like Izzy had done so much and had looked so good. And it was just like, you guys were all finding ways to make excuses of it. And I just didn't understand it. Now, I will say I picked Israel Adesanya, but I thought it was going to be a good fight. I thought it was going to be a tough fight. I really did. But I just didn't understand how you guys couldn't give him credit for what he had done. And I thought I was taking crazy pills. I expected it to be a good fight. It was just one-way traffic the entire time. Israel Adesanya.
You just rubbing it in, and you hadn't stopped. You went on like a 5-minute tangent there. Like you just gonna just
go back and watch our picks video. You guys were talking all the talk beforehand, and I said very little. Now it's my turn to talk because what happened. So yeah.
Okay, I mean, all right. So I mean, I'm gonna make a confession here, okay? Are you ready, John?
I'm ready.
This is breaking news, guys. This is breaking news. Maybe I overlooked Israel Adesanya because Wait a minute. Wait a second. Wait. Let me finish now. Okay. Now I have to confess that as we got closer to the fight, the more and more nervous I got. I was like, wait a second here. You know what I'm saying? I said, I can see this fight. I can see Izzy completely stalemating Paulo Costa. Like, I didn't want to verbalize it because I feel like if you verbalize it, it becomes true. But I do feel like I may have underestimated Izzy in this fight. Maybe it's because I was a Paulo fan. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, the way that I imagined, the way that I hoped that this fight would not have played out, it played out exactly the way I thought it would. Izzy just on his bicycle, you know what I'm saying, finding ways to escape Paulo Costa, you know what I'm saying, escaping Paulo and just throwing that leg kick and pumping the jab. It was perfect. It was a perfect performance by Israel Adesanya, and my hat goes off to him. I've got to give him that because maybe Izzy is as great as people say he is. If you can go out here and neutralize, and if you can neutralize a killer like Paulo Costa like that, and then land something, he completely 100% contradicted everything that I said. I said, I don't think Izzy could land anything that can sting Paulo, you know what I'm saying, from coming after him. And then that's exactly what he did. He fucking dropped him. He dropped him. So I'm just like, fucking A. I gotta give him credit. Israel Adesanya is as good as they say he is.
And I got a couple of things, couple of points. First of all, the weigh-ins and the trash talk fight week. You said it. Anthony said it. Everyone who like was picking Paulo Costa all said, and like again, I understand it. I like in all honesty, like I get where you came from, where it was like, okay, like his pressure, his shots to the body, whatever. You guys felt that like he was going to capitalize on that. I get that, and like all leading up to the fight, Paulo Costa is just like, yeah, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to, he's too skinny. Like I'm going to destroy him. Like all this, right? And then fight week, Paulo Costa is all about how he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu and how he's going to like take him down and like submit him. And I was thinking, man, for months you've been saying how he's got this skinny body and you're just going to like destroy him. And now a couple days before the fight, you're boasting about your black belt. Like, who cares? I thought you were going to go in there and just fold him in half with punches to the body. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, I thought that was a little bit weird. And a lot of people said that he got into Izzy's head. And I was like, I don't know. Like when you could kind of read that both ways, right? And I think based on how the fight went, I think that, like we got to say that Costa started to get a little bit apprehensive and started to kind of doubt himself. And I also got to say this, man, because to your point, and I agree with this, Paulo Costa has looked like an absolute savage in the octagon, right? An UFC record number of strikes landed per minute. Yoel Romero had looked like an absolute savage his last few fights, right? Before he fought Israel Adesanya, including against Paulo Costa, right? That was a great fight. As good as Paulo Costa was, he could have lost that fight because Yoel Romero was right there. They're both landing shots. You talk about the Robert Whittaker wars. You talk about what he did to Luke Rockhold. Yoel Romero had a really good string of fights that he put together, right? And you look at Robert Whittaker. Now, you can say that he wasn't ready to come back. We could say this. We could say that. But now, man, I don't know, dude, because you look at his last three opponents since Kelvin Gastelum, right? Robert Whittaker, Yoel Romero, and Paulo Costa. All of those guys had been on a string of epic fights. And then they fought Israel Adesanya, and they all did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely not. Like, it was just, the Yoel Romero fight was a little bit different because of, Israel was a little bit apprehensive too. But when it comes to just like his opponent's offense, other than Romero landing like one right hand in his last 9 rounds, really, since Gastelum, what has landed? Nothing, like nothing. And these are guys that go to war. And these dudes have just landed absolutely nothing on Israel Adesanya. He's picked them apart, except for, Yoel Romero, which was like a weird fight. But again, he didn't take any damage in that fight, man. Dude, I think Israel Adesanya is the truth. I think he's the truth, man. I really, really do. And when you look at, and he knows he's the truth too, because he's been selling us on a Jared Cannonier fight. And I like Jared Cannonier, and Jared Cannonier is a monster, and I think he could definitely beat Robert Whittaker potentially. But like he's been selling us on that fight. He's been looking like 2 or 3 fights in advance, right? Like he was already like bigging up the Paulo Costa fight, like before he really even had the belt. And now he's been talking about Jared Cannonier for like what seems like a year now. So if Jared Cannonier wins, like that fight already has heat. We already have a backstory of that fight. Like he has Darren Till in the pipeline. Like this dude knows what he's doing, man. And he's inside the octagon and outside the octagon. And I don't think that this is an indictment on Paulo Costa. I just think Israel Adesanya is that good. It's crazy to say, but Paulo Costa might be the second best middleweight in the world. He might be. We don't know.
I'd have to see him in Robert Whittaker fight before I say that.
Right. I mean, he's on the short list. Like he's, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't think this was necessarily like, Paulo Costa sucks. Like that's crazy talk. I think Israel Adesanya is just that good.
Yeah. Yeah. So who? John? Who? Jack Hermansson?
I don't know. I think you start looking at these names, man, and it's like, okay, so if he gets through if Jared Cannonier loses to Robert Whittaker, then he probably ends up, depending on how now, if Robert Whittaker goes in there and like starches Jared Cannonier, then we'll start to get the, Whittaker wasn't, the Reaper when he fought.
I feel like a Whittaker that does starch, the way he beat up Darren Till, and if he goes out here and starches a killer like Cannonier, I mean, a second time around against Izzy would probably end up being a lot different than the first time around with Izzy. I don't know. I'm not nailing in the coffin, but not nailing anything in. But Robert Whittaker is just that good, though. You know what I'm saying? He is that good. But the thing is, like, other than Yoel, Whittaker, Costa, Cannonier, who is going to rise up to face Israel Adesanya? Who is it? Like, who's going to be the person?
Dude, and I'm not saying it should be next, and I'm not saying that he should be in the top 3 guys who should get a title shot, but I think that after, and I think there's still fights out there with Till and Cannonier and Hermansson, right? Like those 3 fights, I think there's a chance that Adesanya fights 2 of those guys, right? But other than those names, right? Other than those names and the guys that you mentioned, right? So other than like, there's like 6 or 7 names, but Adesanya's already beaten like 4 of them, right?
Yep.
Other than those guys, it's Chimaev, dude. I know it's crazy. And like he could get exposed his very next fight, whether it's at welterweight or middleweight, who knows? But like you look at the middleweight division right now, dude, after those names, there is nobody else that you're thinking like, oh man, like maybe that's like an interesting fight except for him.
No, you didn't.
Dude, I'm telling you. And I'd pick Adesanya in that fight. But I'm telling you, as far as storylines, what else is out there? You give me a name.
John, what has Chimaev done that will prove to you? You tell me that I shouldn't be putting Jillian Robertson and Valentina in the same sentence. But you just put Chimaev in the same sentence as Israel Adesanya. No, you did not. No, you did not just do that, John.
I'm saying in terms of interest, I would pick Adesanya to win that fight. I'm saying in terms of fan interest, who else is okay? Then you give me a name that's more exciting.
I would say Jack Hermansson.
I said Jack Hermansson. I said other than Hermansson, other than Till, and other than Cannonier, other than those 3 guys, and then the guys that are at the very top. Who else is there, dude? I said other than those 7 guys, who is there right now that like in terms of building an exciting fight that would get fan interest, who is there? I would pick Adesanya.
I would like to see him fight a Marvin Vettori that can rack up 3 or 4 more of those good wins. That was a close fight, dude. Yeah. I would love to see that rematch. Wait a minute, Robert Henry. I didn't delete your comment, bro. I'm not deleting anybody's comments. What's going on? All right. Stamina MC says, choo choo. I can't believe John did that. John, you're still my guy, bro.
I just said that I would pick Adesanya, and I said that he's not in the top 7 of fights that would be interesting. But I'm saying in terms of fan interest in a fight for Israel Adesanya, are you kidding me, dude? Who? Hold on. What? Let me bring up the rankings right now.
That's what I'm doing.
But the fact that there is no other name, maybe I'm forgetting someone, but the fact that there are no other names that come to mind should tell you everything. Okay, so you mean to tell me, you mean to tell me that if Israel Adesanya got booked against Chris Weidman, Uriah Hall, Edmund Shabazian, Brad Tavares, Amari Akhmedov, Ian Heinisch, or Marvin Vettori, those 7 names, that's the back end of the rankings. He's already beaten Kelvin Gastelum. He's already beaten Derek Brunson. I said that I'd be more interested in Till. He's already beaten Yoel. I already said I'd be more interested in Hermanson and Cannonier. And he's beaten Paulo Costa and Robert Whittaker. Those are the entire middleweight rankings. So you mean to tell me from everyone from Chris Weidman down that you'd be more excited about those fights rather than a fight with Chimaev in 2 or 3 fights where if Chimaev keeps winning? I'm not saying that I would. Dude, if
2 or 3 fights?
Yeah, for Adesanya. If Adesanya wins 2 or 3 more fights, right? If he gets through Hermanson and or Cannonier or Till, if he gets through 2 of those guys, I'm saying the next guy as of today, things change all the time. But Chimaev, if they got booked today, right now, Chimaev or anyone from 9 in the middleweight rankings down, I'd be more excited about a fight with Chimaev and Israel Adesanya than any of those guys from Chris Weidman down in the middleweight rankings right now.
And you wouldn't be excited for Jillian Robertson versus Valentina Shevchenko?
No. More so than who, though? That's what I'm saying. You got to compare it. You know what I'm saying?
Calvillo.
I'd be more excited for Calvillo.
Wow.
I'd be more excited for Calvillo. But give me Robertson versus Shevchenko over Lauren Murphy, Calderwood, Modafferi. Araujo's close. I think I'd be more excited for Araujo just because she has knockout power, whatever. But there's names that I'd be more excited for Jillian Robertson than 100%, but not every single person. That's what I'm saying, and I'm saying.
So let's move to the light heavyweight title fight. What did you take away from that fight? Clay Dog, what's up? Comment section. How y'all doing, man? RP Singh says send him a link. We keeping it 30 minutes, RP. We ain't staying on here forever. Go ahead, John.
I think that. So it's kind of weird, right? So ahead of the John Jones fight, I didn't think Dominic Reyes had a chance really against John Jones, right? And not many people did, but you really look at his career to that point. His previous 3 fights had been, a pretty good win against Ovince St. Preux, a fight that I thought that he lost against Volkan Ozdemir, right? And then he knocks out, an over the hill Chris Weidman. And it's okay, he was the right guy. He deserved the title shot. But going into that fight, it was it's I didn't really know how to feel about Dominic Reyes, right? It was okay, some really good performances, some really bad ones. He said that going into that fight, I said that, he thought that he got taken down as easy, or he claims that he got taken down as easily by Volkan Ozdemir, a guy who, not many people are going to confuse him as, for Khabib. And he gets taken down by Volkan Ozdemir a lot in that fight. And he said it was because he wasn't expecting Ozdemir to fight like that. Right. And it's like, okay, but if you don't have that foundation of wrestling defense and you're getting taken down by Volkan Ozdemir, well, what's John Jones going to do to you? Right. So that's kind of how I thought that fight was going to go. We go to that fight, and John Jones has a lot of trouble taking Dominic Reyes down. Dominic Reyes, in my opinion, won the first 3 rounds, right? And it's just like, now everyone's thinking, well, Dominic Reyes is like the guy. He's the next, he's this, he's that. And in the meantime, we have Jan Blachowicz, other than, a slip up against Thiago Santos, just getting the job done. And I felt that Jan could certainly knock him out, but I thought that Reyes was the more well-rounded, better fighter. I don't think that anymore after seeing them in the octagon together.
I just think the speed was the biggest thing for me. I thought Jan was just so much quicker than Dominic as far as getting the punches off. And Dominic was willing to stand in the pocket and bang with Jan, you know what I'm saying? And he landed a few good shots, but Jan was just throwing fury with speed, man. And and when it landed, man, I mean, when he hurt his nose, I knew it was going downhill from there. I mean, he was getting lit up. Yeah, I don't think Jan allowed because you can't let Dominic Reyes settle into a fight. If you let Dominic Reyes start getting his rhythm, see, John Jones let Dominic Reyes settle into the fight and start reading him and timing him and looking at his habits and shit like that. Jan Blachowicz went after his fucking head, dude, and I think that's what caught him off guard. I think it just caught him off guard, bro.
I think in both fights, both title fights, the guy who lost would have had the advantage in like a crazy firefight. You know what I mean? And the guys who both won fought really like smart and conservatively until the moment was right to put the pedal to the metal. And I thought that we saw Adesanya do that, and we saw Jan do that, and they did it right at the right time, and then were able to get the finishes. Yes.
You were a good one, John. Good one, man. I like the way you break stuff down. That's the only reason I keep bringing you back on here, because other than that, you talk a lot of shit.
I know. No, listen, I understand that completely, because it must be frustrating getting, these better takes getting thrown your way while you're over here telling me that Paulo Costa is going to dominate Israel Adesanya.
So who stood out to you? Robert Henry Jillian gets guillotined by Valentina. Okay. So who stood out to you? Which fighter stood out to you most on this card? Because I mean, I got a couple that really stood out for me, man.
Yeah, I got 3 actually.
Go ahead.
Brandon Royval. I mean, it's impossible not to be impressed with his first 2 fights in the UFC, and I thought that this was going to be a close, tough fight. I leaned Kai Kara France. I thought that it was, but like, I thought Royval had a chance, but I didn't see him dominating like that. I was really impressed with Hakeem Dawodu. I thought that you could argue that he lost that fight, but I'm happy that he got the win, just because I thought Tukagov was, running from the fight in the 3rd round, and Dawodu's a guy who I'm really excited for down the line. And dude, William Knight is a savage, dude,
bro. Yeah, he's a killer, dude. I ain't gonna lie.
And
he's a killer.
I think he's kind of like, it's weird, because I think that, like, you look at his body, right, and he's obviously yoked out of his mind, and you look at like Paulo Costa, and like in a weird way, Costa and his physique was like a good thing for him, right? And like going into the fight, it's like, oh, like he's got this power, like he's yoked, like look at this, he's gonna do that. But when it comes to William Knight, I feel like people are just like, well, he's just like this big jacked dude, and like he's really like not that good, but like he's big and strong, and he has it's like where like you could kind of say the same, you could have, right? Like you could go the how you said everything that we applied to Paulo Costa, we could apply to him, and vice versa. And it's like their bodies were looked at as like a good thing for Costa and a bad thing for William Knight. But man, he showed that he has skills, and he's also just completely jacked.
Yeah, dude. And one thing I found interesting about William Knight, though, even though he started to fade a little bit as the fight went on, he was still able to explode. He was still able to land significant strikes, continue on in this clinch battle that was going on in this fight, man. I mean, it was that was a grueling fight. You know what I'm saying? And I even take away some things from Alexa Kamer in that fight, man. When you get at range with Alexa Kamer, you better have your fucking guard up, dude, because he's gonna fire fast. They're not the most technical shots, but they're fast and they're fucking hard. So any advice to anybody who fights Alexa Kamer, you better keep your guard up at distance, because he's firing those shots, man, and they're fast. Super, super fast. But one of the people who stood out for me in this fight, and I thought, a lot of people kind of didn't give this guy a chance because he never fought, in the UFC or whatever. But let me see here. Oh, man, I got lost here on my thing. It was Ludovic Klein, man. And if anyone would go and watch any Ludovic Klein footage, you would see that this guy is an absolute fucking killer. Like, this guy is a killer, bro. And, he did miss weight. And I don't, what do you feel? For one, John, how did you feel about his performance? And two, how did you feel about what Izzy said afterwards?
So I think that something has to be done about fighters missing weight. But I think we have to use our brains a little bit and not just have this like one blanket like type of situation where like if you accept a short notice fight and you miss weight, or the UFC needs to bend a little bit and book more catch weight fights, right? Like if the UFC books catch weight fights, then I think
those short notice ones.
Yeah, exactly, for short notice fights, but like that kind of makes sense. But at the same time, like I kind of also see the point where if someone wants to say, listen, if you sign on the dotted line that you're going to fight at 145 pounds and make 145 pounds, like that's this is the real world. You know what I'm saying? Like I get that perspective 100% too. But like I think that there is what Izzy said is I think that there is some of that. And I think that we dismiss some of that where it's like, fighters are willing to, I think Tukagov did it where he was willing to, lose some of that of his pay for an opportunity to pick up a win against a guy like Hakeem Dawodu. And he thought that was an advantage. I think that I think that fighters should be docked a point if they miss weight. I think that they should be docked a point.
Right out the gate.
Yeah. Like,
okay.
100%. You start the fight, the referee takes a point as if like he hit him in his penis like 4 times. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think that if you did that, then fighters would, try to make weight, because like when it comes down to like as much as or as little as these fighters get paid sometimes, I think that there are certain situations where people are willing to miss weight and get docked 80% of their pay, 90% of their pay, if they think it gives them a better chance to win. Because if they win this fight, then the next one's going to be a huge, like, I think that there is some sort of like levels of those types of games that being played. And it is just like a competitive advantage if you don't have to make weight. So if you have the competitive advantage of missing weight, then you should have the competitive disadvantage of being docked a point. That's how I see it.
Listen to John spitting facts over. Listen to John, man. I mean, are you revved up this morning, man?
Like I said, I just got out of the gym. I'm still like kind of sweating. The Patriots are playing. Cam Newton just threw a pick. They're down 3-0. You know, I just worked out. I'm firing on all cylinders right now.
Man, you're on it this morning, man. And real quick, man, I think that I did want to talk about the Sajara Eubanks and Ketlin Vieira fight. What did you take away from that fight, man? I think Ketlin did exactly what I thought she would do. Just be bigger, be stronger, be faster. You know what I'm saying? What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think that Ketlin Vieira is just better than Sajara Eubanks, but I also think that Vieira is one of the better bantamweights in the world right now, and I think that Sajara Eubanks in her you take the Avia fight and you take the Vieira fight. I think a lot higher of Sajara Eubanks today than I did, you know, at the beginning of September. Like, I think she deserves a lot of credit for how she's fought her last two fights. But I just think Ketlin Vieira is just like a little bit better than she is.
Yeah. I think Ketlin looked good in there last night. She was throwing heat. She was throwing them straight down the pipe, like I said she would. You know what I'm saying? And she dominated Sarge on the ground, man. I mean, it was a beautiful performance by Ketlin. So who's next for Ketlin Vieira? I think a fight with Sarah McMahon would be a good.
She beat Sarah McMahon though, right?
Did she beat Sarah McMahon already?
She submitted her, no? Yeah, she did. Back in 2017. Yeah, bro.
How did I forget about that fight? Well,
she hasn't been fighting that much.
Who does Ketlin Vieira fight next? Kunitskaya, maybe?
See, here's the interesting thing. I think that it is. No, I don't think it's possible. But I think that it's because if you remember, before she got knocked out by Aldana, she said that after she beat Aldana, she wanted to fight Nunes, and she didn't care if it was at 135 or 145 pounds. Then she gets knocked out, and obviously, you know, like that ship sailed. But, you know, her willingness to go to 145 pounds, kind of interesting, right? It would probably have to be for a title shot, right? Probably have to be for a title. Nunes defending the belt in December. Then what does she do after that? Who knows? Does she go back down to 135? Who knows? But I think that, you know, it's hard to say what's next for Vieira because, you know, we have Holman Aldana coming up, and then as well as a GDR and Pena. It's like, I think depending on how those fights go, I think it's hard to predict what's next for Vieira until those fights happen. They're happening. They're happening this week.
Dude, GDR and Pena, dude. Just real quick. Real quick, though. Real short and sweet. That's a fight, bro. That's a fight. Oh, the cup's back, guys. Oh, the cup is back.
Look at that bad boy.
Dude, what are your thoughts about GDR and Pena? That's a tough one, dude, for me. It's not really a tough one for me, but it's a hard fight. I'm going Juliana Pena. It's a hard fight for Juliana Pena, though.
Right, because I don't think Pena can win if the fight stays on the feet, right? Like, I think GDR just picks her apart. But I also can see the fight going exactly like the last fight went for GDR against Amanda Nunes, where Pena just takes her down and just.
And Pena can do that.
100%. And it's just like, it's just who implements their
skill set
the best. And I think that it's kind of weird where, like, I could see both fighters having like dominant wins, but I don't know which fighter it's going to be, which is kind of weird, right? Because it's like I could see each fighter winning like 30-27. But like picking which fighter is going to win is the hard part. It's kind of like a weird fight like that.
So if Juliana Pena beats GDR, how does Juliana Pena do in a fight with Amanda Nunes? That's the question.
Yeah, and Listen, I've said it. You said I've heard you say it. I've said it too. Like I think that Juliana Pena is on the short list of fighters who can give Nunes trouble at 135, and I think that she more so than anybody else. If she were to cut down to flyweight, I think she would be the most interesting fight for Valentina.
She's a former flyweight.
Yeah. I think she was, contemplating going down. Obviously they fought before, but based on how that first fight went and who we know Juliana Pena is, I think that would be the most interesting fight for Shevchenko right now at 125 pounds. But I think with Nunes, the hard thing is that Nunes would be willing to go to the ground with her and might be better than Juliana Pena on the ground. It's close. It's close, right? Like Pena might be better, but it's close, right? Like you can't definitively say that Pena is better than Nunes on the ground. You can't. But I can say that Nunes just pieces her up on the feet. And can Pena take her down? I don't know. I think that everywhere that that Pena likes to keep the fight, Nunes can be at the very least competitive in those situations. So I'm also, Amanda Nunes is my favorite fighter, so take that with a grain of salt. But I think that Nunes would get the job done. I would be confident in that fight. However, if you were to tell me that Amanda Nunes lost at 135 pounds over the next, if you tell me she were to lose over the next year and a half to 2 years, and I had to pick 3 fighters who could potentially beat her, I think that I would put Juliana Pena on that list for sure.
Stamina MC says Juliana Pena versus Nunes looks not too different from Spencer versus Nunes, in my opinion. I think it does look different than Spencer because the thing about Spencer is Spencer's entries to the clinch and to the takedown was super sloppy, and Amanda Nunes could see them coming from a mile away. You know what I'm saying? Now, go back and refresh yourself on Juliana Pena. Look at how Juliana Pena bodies girls up. It's a completely different way. You know what I'm saying? Felicia Spencer was diving in from halfway across the cage. Of course, Amanda Nunes was going to see that coming, but Juliana Pena is different. Go watch the Juliana Pena Kat Zingano fight. That'll show you Juliana when she goes, man. She goes, bro. But that's a good one, man. I'm excited. Now, is that on Fight Island?
Yeah, the next until Habib Gaethje, which is at 2:00 in the afternoon, and that just makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. Until that card, everything's on Fight Island.
2 weeks from now, right?
No, that's on the 24th, I think of October.
I think I might be off that day. I'm not sure. I have to go look.
It's October. It's October 24th.
I have to go look and see. But yeah, man. But yeah, guys, that's it. We just wanted to pull out a few things about UFC 253. What we thought initially, our thoughts after the fight. Yes, Paulo Costa lost easy. I had to eat that. I had to eat the first 5 minutes of this episode is John just rubbing it in my face. You know what I'm saying? Repeating the same shit that he said on the other video, just to kind of say no, I'm gonna say it again because I'm right. So whatever, it is what it is. But John, whatever.
You brought it upon yourself.
All right, guys. This is your boy BJ back from No Filter MMA. This is my boy John Realjo from Bloody Canvas MMA. Go give those guys a subscribe. Go follow their website, bloodycanvas.net. Keeping it fresh and keep it coming. Hit that like button. If you didn't give a fuck what we were talking about, hit that dislike button. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. And we are out.